the Americans freed from a landmark multinational exchange. They are back on U.S. soil. Journalist Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan were welcomed back home on the tarmac last night. The United States exchange with Russia, it is the biggest since the Cold War, and that's despite relations between the two powers being at their lowest since the Soviet era. NBC 10 political commentator Sue O'Connell joining us right now. Sue, let's start and dive into the hostage swap with Russia. This is a huge win, a big win for President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, made possible by a man who, quite frankly, doesn't like either of them. So why did Vladimir Putin agree to this swap?
Well, let's unpack it just a little bit first, Colton. The Democrats, of course, are saying it's a big win because the Biden-Harris administration led the international community, which included Germany, Poland, Turkey, Norway, and Slovenia. They all had to participate to make this happen. And the Republicans are saying it's a win for them because maybe Putin is afraid of a possible Trump presidency. But my Russian experts tell me that it's important not to think of this as a prisoner swap between nations, but rather a release of kidnapped Westerners held by a crime syndicate. And the syndicate, of course, is Russia. This release is an extension of the negotiations that released Brittany Griner. Putin is said to have really wanted Vladimir Gershkovich out. He was serving a life sentence in Germany, but Germany disagreed and wouldn't release him then. And then Putin, of course, right now, may be signaling to operatives around the world that he has their backs if they get caught doing something in another country. So the experts also tell me Putin most likely saw this moment as an opportunity to cash out of the current stance. He got 16 prisoners for 8. And if he needs more leverage in the future, Putin can kidnap more Westerners. And that possibility, I'm told, means if you're a Westerner or you're American, do not travel to Russia.
Yeah, I want to talk about Donald Trump here because he appears to be no fan of this deal that brought these hostages home. Yesterday on social media, he posted, quote, "Our negotiators are always an embarrassment to us." What is it about this deal that Trump doesn't like?
Well, Trump, it's got nothing to do with the deal, Colton. He just doesn't like good news for the Biden and Harris administration. He doesn't care that it's also good news for the hostages, good news for their families, good news for America. Trump's self-centered reaction, which he posted on Truth Social, made no mention of the freed Americans. Trump said he could have gotten the hostages out of Russia without concessions. And of course, when President Biden was asked about that comment, he said, why didn't he do it when he was president? Good question. So remember, it's the same sentiment that Trump expressed in the past. He's publicly wished the American economy would crash because it would be good for his campaign. And he derailed that bipartisan border deal at the beginning of the year because although it may have been good for America in the first in decades, it would have been bad for Trump.
Let's stick on Mr. Trump right here, right? Because he's been running this campaign for more than a year. And actually, you've commented several times on the air here that his 2024 campaign that we have been living through has been the most polished and professional one that he's ever run. You still believe that? And beyond that, if not, when did it start to go off the rails?
Well, Colton, I think it was, and it may still be compared to his other campaigns, but Trump seems to have decided to revert to the candidate he was and the person he is in prior campaigns. He's now clearly ignoring his campaign managers and fellow Republicans' advice. They want Trump to focus his attacks on Harris and her record, especially on the southern border, crime, the economy, foreign policy. But Trump just can't help himself. He's going to continue to attack her from an identity politics base, insulting her personally. And meanwhile, Harris and the Democrats, they're just going to keep responding by talking about policy and then pointing out that Trump is ranting like a weird old man.
Weird. There's the word again.
There it is.
Yeah. Sue O'Connell. Sue, as always, thank you. Stay with NBC 10 Boston for continuing coverage of Decision 2024. Sue is going to join us again coming up at 5:30. In the meantime, you can always get the latest information on our website or by downloading our free NBC Boston app.